Hello, guys. So today we'll be discussing about certain miscellaneous topics. Okay, the reference textbook are Park and Sobin Peter. So in the last miscellaneous chapter, there have been few questions from certain chapters. It is like kind of overlapping, and also some few questions I have omitted from the chapter screening. Okay, that also I've included in this miscellaneous. Okay, mixing of all chapters. Okay, I have included important points from all the topics that have been discussed in your miscellaneous session in your pulse. Okay, so for let's move on. So let's see what is a health promotion. Okay, so understand these terms. Okay, health promotion, health education, approaches, then methods and all. Okay, so these terms you should remember always. So what is a health promotion? So going back to the history, it is like at the beginning of 20th century, a new concept, that is health promotion, began to take shape. Okay, so it was realized that a public health had neglected the citizen as an individual, and the state had a direct responsibility for the health of the individual. So during that time, individual's health or the citizen's health has been neglected. So and it was stated that the state has got a direct responsibility for the health of the individual. Okay, so that is how health promotion began to take place. Okay, so definition of health promotion is the process of enabling people to increase the control over and improve health. This is very very important. Okay, they will give you a definition and they will ask you, this is the definition of what: health education, health promotion, health approaches. So many options they will give. So this is always a definition of health promotion. So that is the process of enabling people to increase control over and improve health. Okay, so it is not directed against any particular disease but to strengthen the host through a variety of approaches, and the ultimate aim is to improve the health. So it is just like overall improvement in health, and it is not directed against any particular disease. Very important. Okay, so what are the active intervention areas in health promotion? Okay, so it is a broad term, and it under this health promotion, so many interventions are there. Okay, so what are the interventions? Let's see. We have a health education, we have environmental modifications, we have nutritional interventions, we have lifestyle and behavioral changes. So all these aims at improving the overall health of the individual and thereby improving the overall health of the community. Okay, so we are moving to health education, so that is more important to us. Okay, this definition is also very important, the definition of health education. So this is the process by which individuals and groups of people learn to behave in a manner conducive to the promotion, maintenance, or a restoration of health. That is, individuals and the group of people learn to behave in a manner which is conducive for the promotion, restoration, and maintenance of health, and which is given by John M. Last. So this is very important. Who gave the definition of health education? Okay. So let's see what are the principles. I think these principles you might have studied in your UG days for the community exams. Okay, so the same thing only. So I'm just discussing important points. So we have 12 principles, and in Soban Peter they have mentioned 13. Okay, so let's see what is credibility. First principle is credibility. That is, does the word meaning is trustworthiness. Okay, so the degree to which the message perceived as trustworthy. So this is the principles of health education. So when we are delivering a health education topic or a health education class, so it should have a credibility. That means whatever we are telling should have or something, it should be trustworthy. Okay, that is the degree to which the receiver perceive it as trustworthy. That is the first principle, credibility. And it should be based on scientific facts, and we are not supposed to tell what all things what all things that came into our mind right at that moment. It should, what all things that we should say, it should be based on scientific facts, or it should have a proper scientific evidence, and it should be consistent, and it should be compatible with the scientific knowledge. And consistency is very important. So if today we are giving a topic on smoking and its ill effects, and we are telling like 1 lakh people died due to smoking last year, and tomorrow we are giving to another, we are giving health education class to another group of people, and we are telling like 2 lakh people died in smoking last year due to smoking last year. So that is like inconsistency is there. So we should tell something that is consistent, that should have a scientific base. So we should take the data and informations like this number of deaths or death rates, should, it should be from proper channel. We should we should refer the internet, and we should take the WHO's or any like authentic information center will be there. So we should collect information from there, and it should have a proper evidence, and it should be consistent, it should have a scientific base. Clear. So that is how it can be credible. So next principle is interest. That is very simple. Like if you're interested to hear something, you will listen, you will learn, you will sit properly and all, just like how you obey or how you respond in a class. So it should be based on the felt needs of the people, and the people will gladly participate. Okay. And the healthy slogans and all, it is like no use. It should be, the most important thing is like it should be based on the felt need. Okay. And the real challenge lies, the health educator should really find what is the health needs of the people. Very simple. If I'm telling you, you have exams next, for example, you have an exams coming next week, and this topic, principles of health education, will be asked as your essay, main essay. So you guys will listen, right? That is the felt need. So you should understand the need, then only you will listen. Okay. So that is the second principle, interest. So next we have participation. Participation is like active participation by the receivers. Okay. That is the listeners. So encourage people to work actively and identify problems along with the health workers to help in finding solution. And we have to finally find the solution. So participation is like we have to encourage the participation of the listeners. Okay. Then motivation. Motivation is the fundamental desire to learn. So anything should have a motive, right? So we should actually make them uh, motivated. That is another important challenge faced by the health educator. So a need for an incentive, that is, we should give them some reward. Okay. So first step in learning to change. Okay. For example, if a father is like trying to inculcate a good habit by making his son waking up every early morning by 6 o'clock, and he'll tell him like, I'll beat you if you are not ready to wake up at 6 o'clock, I'll beat you every day. I don't think so he'll listen. So instead of that, if he tells him like, I'll give you a chocolate every day if you wake up at 6 o'clock, then that is kind of a positive motivation or a positive reinforcement, right? Not reinforcement, positive motivation. Okay. So that is kind of a positive motivation. So we are motivating that person, and we are trying to inculcate a good habit. That is, father is trying to inculcate a good habit. That is a positive motivation. And remember, this motivation is always contagious. If you are aiming at a group of people, if the group leader or the main person is like convinced, or if he is motivated, it can spread to the entire community. So that is what motivation is very important, or the fundamental desire to learn, and it is a very important principle in health education. Okay. So that is, I've given you an example of a positive motivation. Okay. Negative motivation is the same thing. The father is telling like, if I'll beat you if you are not ready to wake up at 6 o'clock, that is kind of a negative motivation. That won't help. It might help, but the effect of positive motivation is like much higher than negative motivation. That is a difference. Okay. Next, we have comprehension. Comprehension is like level of understanding, that is literacy rate. How the thing that we're telling is like comprehensible to the audience. That is a level of understanding. Okay. For that, we should always communicate in simple languages, and we should always have an idea like about the audience, like how much is their literacy, how much is their grasping capacity, or how much is their what to say. If you're going to a class, you should have a pre mindset. No, this class is like full of naughty guys or full of notorious guys. Then it is very clear that if whatever I say, they are not going to listen. So such kind of idea should be there. And even though the class is like notorious guys, or the class is like people who are like, sometimes we'll put all the weak students in the class, so we have to give more effort to those people than like people who are like highly studious, right? So that is what we should understand, the literacy, or we should understand the level of the literacy among the audience, and we should make the class very comprehensible. That is, it should be understandable, and we should use simple languages so that people can understand. We're not supposed to use the hi-fi or doctor terms. It should be based on layman terms. That is a simple meaning. Okay. So next is reinforcement. Okay, reinforcement is nothing but it is repetition. So if I keep on repeating, it will enter into a head. Otherwise, you will go back into the pre-awareness stage. So similarly, health education is also like a class, and the people who are listening is also like a students only. So they are like new to this topic. So we should keep on repeating. That is, then only we can reinforce the idea into their mind, and finally they will change their behavior and they will adopt a new lifestyle. That is our ultimate aims to improve health. So that is like reinforcement, it is like repetition. Next is learning by doing. So that is a example is a proverb. It is just not memorizing. It is not, it is just a theory class, right? It is like our ultimate aim is to make them or adopt them and change or adopt them a new behavior. We want to make them follow a new lifestyle. If something is like they are not following a proper pattern, or they are not maintaining their proper lifestyle, we want them to change. That is learning by doing. So it is not just a theory, it is not just memorizing, it is an action process. Like if I hear I forget, if I see I remember, or if I do I know. That is the best example. Okay, so next is like known to unknown. That is like we should move from simple to more complicated. Okay, that is the foundation should be very simple, and then we can move to more complicated. That is always known to unknown. Okay, and it should start where the people are. Like where are they? What is their level of understanding? What is the level of rate of literacy? And then proceed to new knowledge. That is what known to unknown means. Then setting an example is a very important principle. The person who teaches should be an example or should be a model to the listeners. Okay, if he is teaching and if about the ill effects of smoking, and the listener see himself smokes, then nobody is going to listen. So that is a picture depicts. Okay, you should set a good example in things he is teaching. Okay, then community leaders is like they are called as agents of change. Okay, and there is always a tendency that the fellow beings always follow their leader. So if the leaders are convinced about a program, then implementation is easy. So that is another principle, community leaders. Then good human relation, that is a important principle that is needed in every work. Okay, so building a good human relationship should go with hand in hand, and also it is very important in developing communication skills. If you have a good human relations, or a relationship between a good relationship between teacher and students other, then the class is like very easy going, right? So similarly, sharing of idea will be very easily if there is a good human relationship between the sender and the receiver. Okay, then there should be a proper feedback always helps in modifying, improving the skill, and it is a key concept in health education. Not even in health education, every class or a talk, key feedback is very important. So the last principle, it is in Soben Peter, that is soil, seed and sour. Okay, that is like people are the soil. Okay, the health facts are the seed. That is like we are giving the seeds. Okay, so that is the health facts, and the transmitting media is the sower. Okay, that is soil, seed, and sower. So prior knowledge of the people, that is customs, habits, taboos, beliefs, and health needs, is very essential for a successful health education. That is very important. Okay, we should know all those things. So these are the 13 principles. Okay, principles of health education. This is very important. So remember the concept and remember the by heart the principles, each principles. So next we are moving to learn about the approaches in health education. So we have covered principles. So we have four approaches: regulatory approach, service approach, educational approach, and primary healthcare approach. So study these terms. Okay, so sometimes again like give you options like what are which among the following is not an approach in health education. So you study these four approaches and its names. Okay, I'll just briefly explain. So regulatory approach is all about regulations or laws. Okay, for example, we're giving a law, we're implementing a law like compulsory wearing of seat belt when driving a four wheeler. So that is kind of a law. Okay, and it is ultimate aim is to prevent accident, that is to promote and maintain proper health. So that is a kind of regulatory approach, how we can approach for health education. Okay, so that is an example. Then we have a service approach, it should be based on the felt needs of the people. So an example is like when we are providing a water seal toilets for the person, water seal toilets uh, for a people who are belonging to a very remote very village people, and they doesn't know how to use that. So there is no point in giving such kind of toilets to them because they are not used to it. Okay, so we should first understand what are their actual need. Okay, and then we should provide them the appropriate services. Okay, then educational approach is all about educating the people. Suppose when it comes to personal choices such as cigarette smoking, then junk food, when we are consuming junk food. Okay, so one fine morning government is implementing a law like you're not supposed to buy cigarettes from tomorrow. Like nobody is going to obey that. It will lead to lots of complications. So in that case, when it comes to personal choices, the best method is educational approach. We have to educate the people about the harmful effects of smoking or the ill effects of consuming more amount of junk food, and then we can try to change their lifestyle. Okay. Then last one is primary healthcare approach. That is like giving people's health in people's hands. Okay. So it is with the help of a healthcare provider. With the help of a healthcare provider, the person itself will identify their needs and demands, and then with the help of a healthcare provider or with the help of a healthcare fraternity, anyone, they will find a solution for that. So that is about primary healthcare approach, that is PHC. Okay. So next, we are moving on to the types of communication. We have different types of communication. So mostly they have been asking the questions like, what are the other names for one way communication and two way communication. So I've seen questions like Socratic method is like which type of communication. So that is two way communication, and didactic is one way communication. So one way means the person who is taking or giving a class is the sender, and the person who is receiving is the receiver. So from the sender to receiver, there is like one way communication, and the sender is taking the class and receiver is receiving. There is no like feedback, or there is like no interaction. So that is one way communication. If it is two way, both the sender and receiver will actively participate. So that is two way communication. Okay. Then we have verbal and non-verbal, same thing as the name suggests. Formal and informal we have. Then visual we have. Telecommunication and internet. So these are the types of communications. Remember the synonyms for one way and two way. So that is about the types. Next, we have methods in health education. Like how should we, what are the methods for a proper health education? So we have individual approach, group approach, and mass approach. Okay, so individual approach, you have person to person contact. We can go to the house visit, and we can educate them, and personal letters. Okay. Group approach is like we can do lectures, demonstrations, discussion methods. So under discussion methods, we have so many things. We have group discussion, we have panel discussion, we have symposium, we have workshops, we have conferences, and we have seminars. Okay. So you should understand the difference between each. So this group discussion is like um, certain group of people, they will sit and discuss regarding a particular topic. Okay. And there should be a group leader in for every groups, and there should be a recorder, and a recorder will record all the important findings. And the disadvantage of group discussion is that those who are weak in communicating, they will remain as like they won't actively participate. Those who are smart, or those who are good enough in talking, or they have got good enough skills in talking, they will uh, actively participate. So that is one of the disadvantage of group discussion. So next is panel discussion. So panel discussion is like a group of 4 to 8 experts. Uh, they will discuss a topic in front of an audience. Okay, and there will be a chairman, and chairman will open the discussing or the session. That is, he will give a introduction, or he'll open the session. Okay. And in front of the audience, a panel, they will a group of 4 to 8 experts will be there, and they will discuss the topic. Okay, that is what panel discussion. Okay. Symposium is like it is a series of speeches. Okay. So that is symposium means. And usually it is like related to, can be maybe any speciality topics they can take, or any topics like symposium. So it is like a lot of people, as in a few people will prepare kind of data or speeches for the particular topic, and they will present it in front of the audience. That is what symposium. So there will be a series of speeches go in line, and the audience have to listen it. Okay. Next is workshops. It is like a series of meetings which emphasize on the individual work. Okay. So there will be a resource person. You have seen workshops on pit and fissures, fluorides, you've heard about it. Like, so it is like there will be a practical practice session too. Okay. So with the help of a resource person, they will monitor the individual work, or it can be group wise also. So it is like a series of meetings which emphasizes on individual work, and it would be monitored with the help of a resource person. it will be held. So that is workshops. And conferences and seminars, you already know. Conferences, if it is a specialty conference, it can be theme based or not theme based, 2-day conference, 3-day conference. It is like a lot of things will be there that you already know. And seminar is like a person is taking, discussing. The health education itself can be given as a seminar in community, okay. So he has to discuss in and out of everything regarding health education, and there will be audience. Audience can be his fellow beings or also teachers, principal, everyone can sit. So that is a simple seminar at a PG level, okay. It can happen at any place, okay. So I'm just explaining in like for the sake of your understanding. So these are the group approaches, okay. Next you have mass approaches, so like television, that is we're aiming at a whole community. So television is one of the best method. You have seen so many health education ads in television. Then you have radio, you have newspapers, printed material, posters, museums and exhibitions, then folk methods. So many folk methods other than internet. So these are the methods, okay, how we can educate people. Okay. Next, you are going to learn about models in health educations. I think one or two questions are there regarding models. They have stressed about health belief model in in I think health belief model. One question is regarding the health belief model. Health belief model. Don't like think too much on these models. It is at a quite higher level because it is usually studied during a PG period, okay. So it was introduced by Rosenstock in 1950, okay. So this is like models means like we are making a particular behavior based on certain facts or based on certain constructs. So in this health belief model, behavior is made based on 6 constructs, okay. So the 6 constructs are perceived susceptibility, severity, benefits and barriers, cues to action, and self efficacy. So these are the 6 constructs in health belief model. So I'll explain these constructs with the help of an example. So first one is perceived susceptibility. So for example, consider a person, okay. So he or she should, first of all, he or she should be aware that he can get periodontitis, or he's susceptible for getting periodontitis. That is what perceived susceptibility. He should be knowing that, okay. Then he should also know what is the severity, what all things it can leads to, and he should know about the benefits and the barriers. Okay, so what are the benefits of taking the treatment periodontitis, and what are the barriers in approaching for the treatment for periodontitis? And he should know what are the cues to action and self efficacy measures, or self measures that he can do to control or to prevent periodontitis. So that is the constructs, and based on this construct he should plan a behavior. So we are making a particular behavior based on the 6 construct. So that is the health education model. It is actually a hypothetical model, okay. Don't break your head by thinking too much. It is just a hypothetical model. So based on these things we have to make human health decisions and subsequent behaviors. That is what this model tells, okay. And another model is also, I think they have given in the explanation, that is proceed model. So you just learn the enumeration of that model, and that is mostly used for program planning, okay. Proceed model, okay. And just go through the pulse, it is given in the explanation, okay. So next is we are moving on to screening. Okay, so screening, it is like actively identifying a disease or a pre-disease in individuals who are presumed to be healthy. So screening, we are, you know what is a screening? Like we are screening, or we are looking for a disease in an actively apparently healthy person, and we are finding a disease or pre-disease in those persons, okay. And the clinical course of the disease can be altered if we can find out it like very early, and the prognosis will be very improved if the disease is find out at a very early stage, okay. So let's see what is the definition. The search for unrecognized disease or a defect by means of rapidly applied test, examinations, or other procedures in an apparently healthy individuals. That is very important. Apparently healthy. They seems to be healthy, but may not be healthy. Okay. So what we are searching, the search for unrecognized disease or defect by means of a rapidly applied test or examinations or other procedures in apparently healthy individual. Clear? So it has got a screening test has got following It should satisfy following criteria. It should be acceptable, that is acceptability, repeatability. It should have a validity. Validity is very important. We are going to learn about validity more. It should possess yield. It should be simple. It should be safe. It should be rapid, and it should have an ease of administration, and should be cost effective. So, in this, among these criteria, we are going to learn more about validity and yield. Okay, so validity has got two components. It is sensitivity and specificity. Okay, so this sensitivity and specificity is very very important. There won't be any questions in this community topic like without asking sensitivity and specificity. They will definitely, there will be one question covering sensitivity and specificity. Okay, so you try to understand the concept and the difference between these two, and if you're not able to recollect or remember, you just by heart it. Okay, so what is sensitivity and what is specificity? Okay, so it is all about a screening test. Okay, so sensitivity of a test means the ability of the test to identify correctly those who have the disease. So sensitive, the test is highly sensitive means the test is able to diagnose the amount of the people correctly, that is those people are having the disease. So that is what sensitivity means. Okay, he is highly sensitive means correctly he's we are able to, for example, if you're telling like this guy is highly sensitive, as in like he's like very able to what to say, that minute things will affect him. That is what a sensitive, he's highly sensitive means. So that minute things, so a test is sensitive means we should be able to identify even the minute things. That is like, uh, even if the disease is very minute, the test should have the potential to identify the disease. That is what correct, the test should have the ability to identify correctly those who have the disease. That is sensitivity means. The test is highly sensitive, that means the test has the potential to identify those who correctly have the disease. Clear? That is what sensitivity. Then specificity, that is just opposite. Okay, it is the ability of the test to identify correctly those who do not have the disease. So sensitive means it has identified the people with correctly, it has identified correctly the people who has the disease or who have the disease. And specificity means the ability to identify correctly those who do not have the disease. So those who have the disease is sensitivity, and ability of the test to identify those who have the disease, and ability of the test to identify those who do not have the disease is specificity. So the test is highly specific means uh, h- the test has a potential to correctly identify those who do not have the disease. So those will be eliminated. Like those who do not have the disease are like healthy, right? So that is what specific means. It is highly specific. It can eliminate, or it can correctly identify those who are not having the disease, those who do not have the disease. So those people are healthy, so they will be out of fire. So that is the difference between sensitivity and specificity. The ability to identify correctly those who have the disease is sensitivity, that is highly sensitive. Sensitivity means it can even detect the minute changes. So minute disease also we should detect. So the test is highly sensitive means they have correctly diagnosed the people, those who have the disease, and specific means those who are healthy or those who do not have the disease has been identified correctly. Clear? Okay, next is you have a column. So first see that blue table. Okay, that is, I have already discussed it in epidemiology. So if a disease factor is, risk factor is present or absent, and the disease present and disease absent denoted by A, B, C, D. Clear? Similarly, here instead of this risk factor, we have screening test. If it is positive or negative, and the disease is present or disease is not present, and we have a total count. So sensitivity is, there is an equation for calculating sensitivity. Okay, so sensitivity is like people, we have to identify the people who are having the disease. Okay, so just see the column disease. So disease column is A plus C. Okay, that is 80 plus 100, right? So, 80 plus 20, so total is 100. That disease, those who having the disease. Sensitivity, what is sensitivity? To correctly identify those who have the disease. So we are just looking the column of the people who are having the disease, that is disease column. Okay, and what we have to find, we have to find correctly those who have the disease. So if you want to find a test is said to be correct, it should give you the positive result, right? So the numerator will be A. So those who tested positive in a screening result and those who are with the disease. So that is A. And the new denominator, that is numerator, and the denominator will be those who are having the disease. So sensitivity equation is A by A plus C. Clear? So that is 80 by 100, that is 80%. It is highly sensitive. So that is 80% who had tested for the disease had shown positive screening results. Okay, so among the 100, those who have been tested, so among the 100, that is those who are with the disease, 80 people are correctly uh, shown the positive result, and they have been uh, correctly been identified as the test with the positive result and those who are with the disease. So that is what sensitivity gives you, that is 80 by 100, that is 80% sensitive. Clear? That is, this test has got the ability to correctly identify those who have the disease, that is 80%, it is like sensitive, 80% sensitive. So when we test 100, 80% people are correctly diagnosed as positive. That is what it means. It is means highly sensitive. Okay. Next is specificity. So specificity is like we have to identify those who are not having the disease. So that is, those who are not having the disease is like we have to see no disease column. That is, denominator will be C plus D, and we should see that the screening test also should be negative. Okay, so that is what the accuracy means. The screening test should also be negative, and the person should also be free from the disease. So the equation will be D by C plus D. Okay, B plus D. Okay, so no disease column is B plus D. So the denominator will be B plus D, and he should be negative, and he should be without having the disease. So that is what specific. He should be healthy. That is what specificity means. The ability of the test to correctly diagnose those who are not having the disease. So he should show negative screening test also, and he should be under no disease column. So D by B plus D. So that is like 800 by 900. So 89%. So it is highly specific. Means it has the ability to correctly diagnose those who are do not having the disease. That is what 89%. So among 100, if we, according to this result, so among this 100 person, if we are evaluating 89 percentage, this test has got the potential to correctly diagnose 89% of the people are not having the disease. So that is what specificity and sensitivity that I have explained earlier. So I think it is clear. So what is sensitivity? To correctly diagnose those who have the disease, and specificity is correctly diagnose those who do not have the disease. And this is sensitivity and specificity is all about ability of the test to identify. Okay, it is the ability of the test. So remember this, and the equation is A by A plus C and D by B plus D. So you have to remember that table, contingency table, and remember what is A, what is B, what is C, what is D. Then if any problem comes, it will be easy for you to answer. Clear? So next we are moving on to the predictive accuracy. Okay, so other than sensitivity and specificity, we have to know about the predictive accuracy. So what is predictive accuracy? It is the performance of a test which is measured by its predictive value. So this predictive accuracy, it is actually meant for measuring the performance of a test, and it reflects the diagnostic power of the test. Okay, so the predictive accuracy depends upon sensitivity, specificity, as well as disease prevalence. So remember this, predictive accuracy, it reflects the diagnostic power of the test, and it depends upon sensitivity, specificity, and disease prevalence. I'll explain in detail. Okay, so under predictive accuracy, we have two components. We have positive predictive value and we have negative predictive value. Okay, so what is positive predictive value, otherwise known as PPV? Okay, it is the proportion of the patients who test positive proportion of the patients who test positive who actually have the disease. So among those who have diseased, among those people who are with the disease, how many of them are testing positive, or how many proportion of the patients are tested positive? So that is what positive predictive value. So it is different from sensitivity and specificity. Don't get it confused. Sensitivity is the ability to identify those who are correctly having the disease, and specificity not having the disease. Here, among those who have the disease, how many are positive, and negative predictive value is proportion of the patients who test negative who are actually free of the disease. So how many patients are how many patients will test negative who are not having the disease. So that is negative predictive value. Positive is like how many patients will test positive who actually has the disease. So understand the difference. Sensitivity and specificity is like we are checking for the we are trying to identify correctly those who have the disease, and specificity is correctly identify those who do not have the disease. Predictive value is like how many has tested positive with the disease and how many has tested negative without the disease. Very simple. Clear? That is predictive accuracy, predictive value. Okay. So it has also have equation is there, you have to study the same table. Okay. So that contingency table, positive, negative, you have the disease with not disease, same table only, but here the equation differs. Here we have to find among the positive, like there we are seeing the column, right? We are seeing uh, how many of them are with the disease. The denominator is like a plus c. It was a plus c, no, in sensitivity, and in specificity it was b plus d, right? So here we are seeing the row. We want to know proportion of the patients who tested positive and who has actually have the disease. So we are checking it row wise. Among the positives, how many are there with the disease? How many tested actually positive and who also have the disease? So we have to see it row wise. That is positive thing we have to see. That positive, you have seen the positive row, and the beneath is a negative row. So that positive titled row we have to see. So the denominator will be a plus b. So among the positives, 80 has got, among the persons who are tested positive, the total is 180. 180 people had tested positive and 80 has got the disease. So among uh, so this predictive value will tells you like the proportion of the patients who had tested positive with the disease, who actually have the disease. So among those who have actually have the disease, these many had tested positive. Clear? So total positive is 180 and 80 has got the disease, and they are known as true positives. Clear? So the equation will be those who are with the disease, that is 80, and the denominator will be a plus b, that is total positive, that is 180. So among this 180, 80 are known as true positives because they have tested positive and they have also have the disease. Clear? Similarly, negative predictive value, the equation will be, we want to see how many had tested negative and were actually free from the disease, right? So negative, we have to see that row, negative row, and free from the disease, obviously it will be 800, that is D. So it will be D by C plus D. So among the 820 people, those who are tested negative, 800 are not having the disease, but 20 have the disease. So among this 820, 800 is like free from the disease. So 800 by 820 will be the negative predictive value. Okay, so this 800 is otherwise known as true negatives because they are tested negative and they are not having the disease. So true positive and true negative, I hope it is clear. Okay, so equation you remember, if you are not able to understand the concept at all, just by heart the equation a by a plus b, c by c plus d. There it was a by a plus c, a by a plus b, d by c plus d. There it was a by a plus c and d by b plus d for specificity. Okay, so sensitivity a by a plus c, and for specificity b by d by b plus d, and for ppv, that is positive predictive value, a by a plus b, and for negative predictive value it is d by c plus d. Okay, at least this equations you by heart. Just you have, what you have to do is like just understand the table and just substitute. You should know where is a, b, c and d, and then study the equation, then it will be very easy. Okay, and I'll give you a tip. For specificity and sensitivity we are checking for the column, and for ppv and npv we are checking for the row. That is just for the sake of understanding. Okay, so the denominator differs. And for specificity the numerator is b, and then for negative predictive value specificity, the numerator is D, and for negative predictive value also it is D. Only the thing is that the denominator differs. Okay, sensitivity denominator is A plus C, specificity denominator is B plus D. Okay, then for PPV denominator is A plus B, since we are checking for the row, and in NPV denominator is C plus D. Okay, only the denominator changes if you're trying to learn the equation by heart. Okay, but it is very simple. First you have an idea about the table, positive, negative, what is A, what is B, what is C, what is D, then you can answer any questions. It is very simple. Okay, then the same thing, the positive predictive value is, as I told you, 80 divided by 180, 44%, and the negative predictive value is 800 divided by 820, that is 98%. That is a predictive accuracy. 44% is a predictive accuracy. Okay, then A is otherwise known as true positive, and B is false positive, C is false negative, and D is true negative. Okay, that is the thing I have explained you just before about true positive and true negative. So A is true positive means among those who tested positive, these people are having the disease, so they are true positive. So true negative means among those who are tested negative, these many people are free from the disease, so that is true negative. Now we have to learn about two more things, false positive and false negative. So there is false positive and false negative is actually a error in reporting, in which a test result improperly indicates the presence of a condition when it is really not there. Okay, so what does that means? Okay, false positive. Okay, that means even though the test is positive but the people is not having the disease, he or she is free from the disease, so that is actually a error. So it gives a false positive result, right? He tested positive but he is free from the disease. See, B is disease absent, that is false positive, so it gives a false positive result. That is positive result is actually not true, it is false. It had given a positive test but the patient is disease free, so that is false positive and denoted by B. Okay, next we have to see what is false negative. Same thing only, even though they have tested negative but they have the disease, that is disease present, C, Fn, you have seen the table Fn, that is C, that is false negative. So another error which improperly indicates there is no presence of the condition, that is the result is negative but he or she has actually have the disease, in reality the disease is present, so that is false negative. So it is giving a false negative result. Clear? Even though he is supposed to be positive because since he has the disease, but it gives a negative, that is it is false, that is a false negative result it is giving. Similarly false positive. So I hope it is clear, A, B, C and D. Okay, so that is about sensitivity, specificity, PPV and NPV. So all these concepts should be clear. What is A, what is B, what is C, what is D, what is A by A plus B, what is D by B plus D, everything should be clear. Okay, then A by A plus B, it is PPV. Then D by C plus D is NPV, whereas D by B plus D is specificity, and sensitivity is like A by A plus C. Okay, I am telling you it's repeatedly because you have to somehow, it should enter in your head, at least you should remember the formula. Okay, if you are very difficult in understanding the concept, it is very simple. Only thing you have to learn is the table, positive, negative, disease present, disease absent, A, B, C, D. Then you can find out everything, true positive, true negative, false positive, false negative. Just you have to split it as row wise and column wise, then it will be very clear. Okay, so next we are going to learn about yield. Okay, so yield, it is the amount of previously unrecognized disease which is diagnosed as a result of screening effort. So what is an yield? That is, it is a previously unrecognized disease, and that unrecognized disease we are recognizing as a result of a screening effort. So the yield is the amount, how many amount of unrecognized disease we are finding out as a result of a screening effort. That is known as yield. So it depends upon sensitivity, specificity, prevalence, and also the participation of the individuals of the program. Okay, that is known as yield. Okay, so this is all about the miscellaneous. Now you will see about some questions regarding false positive, true negatives, and what are the changes in sensitivity, specificity, prevalence, and all. So it is all concept related. So understand the concept, try solving it out. Okay, and for detailed information you can refer either Park or you can refer either Soban Peter. It is well explained uh, in these books. Okay, so for screening you have to refer Park. Okay, in health education and all you can refer Soban Peter also. So just go through miscellaneous topics. Almost all the topics I have covered. Then read the explanations in Pulse. Okay, so with this we had come to an end of this community chapters. Okay, thank you.